Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss Matt Hancock's latest appearance before the COVID inquiry, as rather than apologise for the corrupt and illegal VIP lane that he helped organise and abuse, he had the nerve to say, do you know what, we should do the same sort of thing for the next pandemic as well. But first, for daily political commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So Hancock knew that he was defending the indefensible, I think demonstrated by his hostility to the inquiry this time and its line of questioning. Hancock, as Health Secretary at the time of the pandemic, has appeared before the inquiry several times already. Every module he appears in some capacity, of course, and I don't think he's been as irritable as this. I suspect he realises that procurement has the greatest potential for the public to see just how callous the Tories were at the time of our greatest need. And it is desperately disappointing that we're not really seeing much in the way of reporting of the inquiry at this particular point in the news, because this is the real meat of it. You know, they allowed untold numbers of people, including frontline NHS staff, to become infected unnecessarily just to line their own pockets. And if the public ever realised this, I think it would be game over for them for a very long time to come. Let's just quickly recap the sequence of political decisions involved in PPE procurement in the initial months of the pandemic. So actually, we have to go back to 2019 first of all. Boris Johnson has just become Prime Minister, and we're told he is informed that PPE stockpiles needed to be refreshed. They hadn't been updated since Labour were last in power. Equipment like that has a limited shelf life. Johnson refused. He deliberately left our emergency stockpiles in a state of deterioration, despite his government officially claiming that a global pandemic was believed to be the #1 threat to the nation. In reality, it was only the #2 threat. The top threat is always a Conservative government. Then the pandemic sweeps its way towards Europe. Johnson still takes no action to prepare stockpiles. Then the pandemic sweeps through Europe. We're definitely getting it right. Still no action. Then we get our first cases in Britain. Nothing. Then the spread of infection gets so bad, not helped, of course, by Johnson removing all track and trace systems and saying, I reckon we should all just get infected and get over it. So it gets so bad that he has to order the first lockdown. Again, no action is taken to order a single box of PPE that frontline NHS and care staff desperately need. Frontline staff are now using bin bags as rudimentary PPE, like a devolved civilization, because they're not receiving new stocks, and the government is still not ordering new stocks. The government are asked why PPE suppliers in Britain are fulfilling orders around the world, but not for the NHS. The suppliers tell the media that they would absolutely prioritise an NHS order if they got one, but they're not getting any. The government say they're running a procurement programme, but they need to take the time to vet suppliers to make sure we get value for money. In reality, we found out later, the Cabinet Office were letting it be known that donors and personal friends of senior ministers can put in requests to supply via what they call the high priority lane, what we later call the VIP lane. In January 2022, the High Court rules that the system was illegal on the basis of it giving preferential treatment to people and companies who are getting themselves onto that high priority lane. In the inquiry yesterday, Matt Hancock tried to defend the scheme. In fact, he said we should do the same thing for a future pandemic. He claimed it was necessary in order to sort through the sheer volume of requests that they were getting, for the government. This was, of course, a ridiculous line of argument. First of all, the government shouldn't be reliant on requests coming in. They should have been sending requests out. There are already PPE suppliers they know about with a proven track record. They should have been approaching them. I should have ordered equipment from existing suppliers first. Now, at the point which they need even more, okay, you may have to say to the wider world, we need more, can you put in requests? Okay, but that is not what happened. In fact, the high priority lane was a secret for quite a long time. It's not just that they weren't ordering from established suppliers and putting out the word, we need requests to come in. They weren't even putting that word out. It was secret. We didn't know about it to begin with. So how were genuine suppliers even supposed to know that such a lane existed to submit offers? Also, if the argument is that you're getting swamped with requests to supply a system and you need a system to sort them out, here's a system for you. Try this on for size. Ask a couple of questions. So request comes in, right? Question. Does this company have a track record of procuring medical equipment? If the answer is no, in the bin. That's a load of them gone straight away. Question number 2. Is this company more than a few weeks old? Again, if the answer's no, in the bin. And if that sounds odd, remember that a lot of these companies simply, if you look up a lot of the companies that got a lot of these requests, contracts, including PPE MedPro, the famous one with Michelle Mone, didn't exist before May 2020. That would have dealt with basically all the fraud. All of the Tories and the companies they formed in May 2020 to be given stupid amounts of money for very poor value equipment, some of which wasn't even fit for purpose. The current government have had to appoint someone to chase down billions of pounds of public money that was paid out to these rogues for equipment that wasn't supplied as ordered and therefore couldn't be used. So not only did the VIP lane not do what Hancock claimed, and that we've got a court judgment that proves that, it didn't even stop people being paid before the equipment had been verified as delivered as ordered. Because otherwise we won't be able to claw it back. You know, because remember, any contracts that were paid out that were just paying way over the odds, we can't do anything about that. Rachel Reeves can do nothing about that because that's legal, right? What the money, the billion she's chasing down is when the government paid out but didn't get the equipment. Also, as we can see from the High Court case against the high priority lane, the system wasn't even used to sort requests. The court judgment makes clear that only certain requests were ever placed onto this VIP lane. That's what made it illegal. It wasn't just a system of considering requests and giving preference to your mates, which would have been corrupt, but that would have been legal. The court said that would have been legal. It was a system you could only get access to if you had some personal contact with Michael Gove in the Cabinet Office. Hence, the newly formed PPE MedPro only got its contracts because Michelle Mone was a Conservative member of the House of Lords. It was literally a case of not what you can supply, but who you know that got you the contracts. Famously included Matt Hancock's local pub landlord being able to access the scheme on behalf of a friend of his. Yesterday, Hancock tried to make the usual argument of, but you don't understand the pressure we were to save lives. But let us remember, they did not grant a single contract for months after the first COVID case was identified in Britain, despite the fact there are established suppliers. And he also talked about getting high quality PPE, yet, and again, this is proven, they were shelling out a fortune to companies with no track record of supplying PPE. Many of those companies did not exist at all for any purpose before May 2020. Who gives a government contract of, say, £200 million to a company that has only just been set up, has a few £1,000s worth of assets and 0 employees? A corrupt government. It's that simple. I mean, think through the process, right? Let us think through the process. You're in desperate need of PPE. You claim you're vetting companies to make sure you get quality PPE at a reasonable price. How do you vet a company that has only existed for a week, is owned by people with no history of supplying medical PPE, and has not employed anyone who does? Like, how does a company like that pass the vetting process? Doesn't, does it? There's nothing to vet. It has no way of being able to demonstrate it can supply what's requested. No way at all. This is what needs explaining to people. It's not just that Hancock, Gove and others are lying about the VIP lane. It's that if you think through the process they are claiming has happened, it's impossible. It cannot possibly be true. They deliberately left us vulnerable by first not refreshing PPE stocks when told to in 2019, when it would have been easy. They then deliberately left us vulnerable when they knew a pandemic was coming our way by working on a plan to shovel billions of pounds of public money into their mates' pockets at a cost to I don't know how many lives. And it's not just those who died. How many have long COVID now as a direct result of not only removing the first successful track and trace system we had, but denying proper PPE to frontline health and social care staff. And remember, the unfit equipment wasn't just on the dodgy suppliers, the government too. There was one famous case of a doctor who received peeled back the expiration date sticker to find another one underneath, showing that it had already expired long before delivered. The government were taking receipt of equipment that they knew was unfit for purpose, which is why they paid out the money whether they got what they ordered or not. It was a scam to line their own pockets. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.